what is going on, comic book movie fans? My name is Jonathan. This is Comic Book Cinema, and today I'm excited about the guest panel that we have for the show. We're joined by two Chicago natives, or at least close to Chicago, Mr. Rick O.C. and Angelo Pasquinelli, and also another guy from Mississippi, Mr. Jeremy Doty. How's everyone doing today?
Good. Great. Fantastic.
We are all really excited about this episode. We were really excited about the movie that we got to watch for this episode, which was Batman and Robin. This film came out in 97, right? 1997, which is kind of hard to believe that it was only 2 years removed from Blade and 3 years removed from X-Men. They were going in a really crazy, wild, wacky direction. Joel Schumacher, the director of this film, his name has been mired in much controversy since the film came out. And on one hand, I'll say this. I kind of get it. I get what he was going for. Is probably somebody that grew up in the 60s that enjoyed the Batman and Robin television show. You know, there's a lot of people, believe it or not, that like that show. I personally do not, but that's because I didn't grow up with it. I grew up with Michael Keaton Batman. I did watch these, you know, when I was a little bit older, but
I wish I had the money they used on the sets back then. They were just huge, and
right?
Elaborate, and just crazy. I just rewatched it today, and it's like, wow. I wish I had half the money they spent in props and all the other stuff. It's crazy.
They probably spent a pretty penny on this movie back in 97 or 96.
Think about how much it cost them just to put that paint on Schwarzenegger's face and have it like glimmer and everything, and the contacts, and having him sit in the chair to do that.
I'm glad you brought up Schwarzenegger, because they paid him $25 million for this film, and he spent 25 days working on this film. So he basically think about that as you watch his performance in this film. I mean, he was good in his own way, but was he really worth $1 million per day?
Yes.
I don't know, man.
Yes, all the one-liners that he just nailed, and it's buried in everyone's brains forever. Yes.
That's like his whole script is one-liners, though. Like the whole thing, front to end. Like there's like nothing. There's hardly any like actual like dialogue other than just like Ice Age. Like, I mean, what are you like?
My problem with him is like Mr. Freeze is like one of the most complex Batman villains, and he has this almost where you're empathetic on why he's doing this, and Arnold didn't bring that to it, and I think that's why. I don't know. I've only watched it one time until today. So
man's tears froze.
All right, true. I'll give you that.
I think because of that great backstory, Angelo, that's kind of why we got a little bit from this performance. I mean, I don't know if you could say it was the performance or just that really strong backstory that kind of made up for a little bit of it. Arnold is Arnold, okay? And for better or worse, his one-liners in this film and delivery of them in some ways is iconic. I'm not going to lie to myself, and I'm not going to lie to you guys and act like I like this film in any sort of way. I can remember when I was maybe not a kid, but so in 97, I was still pretty young. I think I was like second, third grade, somewhere in that ballpark. When this film came out, it was so bad that I knew it was bad, even then, like watching it for the first time. Unlike Batman Forever and these other Batman films were really actually good. They had some, redeemable qualities, but this one was just bad, really bad. And Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl is probably the worst thing ever. I do not like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, but I think that this takes the cake. I mean, worst casting ever.
It felt forced.
It would be like if they casted Taylor Swift to play Batgirl today.
It might be better. I don't know.
Maybe so.
Yeah, they could have totally just taken her out of that, and it would have been fine. Like nothing would have changed in the storyline. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. That could have cut some time off the movie too. They had that scene where she's racing, and like, what really was the point of that for Robin to save her?
Yeah,
the same exact origin of Robin, basically. Like that's something else I noticed. I was like, this is just like Robin's origin story, basically. I mean, Batman had to come in and save him. Because I know in the comics there's a lot of differences there, right? Barbara Gordon, she's related to Commissioner Gordon. That's her father.
Yeah.
And then eventually later on in the comics, she gets shot and she's in the wheelchair. Yeah, I just felt like it was a very poor delivery.
I really love the little parts where Schwarzenegger like sets something up and like freezes over a wall and then wipes it clean and's like, bye. The like sarcasm of like, bye, every time he leaves and gets away. That it cracks me up. I am kind of a fan of the 66 Batman. I understand that it's campy. It's not the Batman that you read, but if we're going to go overboard, he really nailed it, I think. Just that sarcasm and like I said, his one-liners are in my head forever because of that movie.
By the way, that's got to be the worst Batman introduction ever. Because, in Batman 89, you have, I'm Batman, and then even in Batman Begins, he says the I'm Batman line, but he headbutts him. And this one, it's like, hi, Freeze, I'm Batman. And he slides down a dinosaur.
Hi, Freeze, I'm Batman.
That stuck out to me a lot. I was like, dang, that was George Clooney's introduction to the world as Batman.
And it's really disappointing because when they announced that George Clooney was going to be Batman, he was coming off of Dusk Till Dawn, which I thought, like, oh man, this guy's going to be a BA Batman and like kick butt and take no prisoners kind of Batman. And he kind of has that like grizzled look, he looks good in the mask. He looks like Batman. Yeah. And then it's just like they threw that entrance or that opening in and it's like, what?
It's that perfect jawline.
This is not for kids. I mean, this is why we had to show that.
What was you about to say, Angela?
I said it's that perfect jawline for him. That's why he looks so good in the suit. But I mean, he also makes a pretty good Bruce Wayne, honestly. So it's kind of sad that it wasn't successful for him because I thought he was going to be a good Batman.
I think that he definitely had the potential. He had the look. But it was just the writing, the film, the direction, what they were going for. And for some people, that type of thing works. Our good friend Jared, Mr. Rick, loves the campy and the cheesiness of the 60s Batman. But for me personally, it just doesn't work.
He watches something other than X-Men? Wow.
Don't say that out loud. But that's the thing. That's my biggest thing. This type of thing just does not work in a film. And especially nowadays, if you try to do something like this today, oh my gosh, you would get so much hate from all different angles. General moviegoers, hardcore moviegoers. I mean, and really, is this really Batman though? Like if you read the comics and you know who Batman is this really Batman?
I was hoping they were going to take Robin to the more like the Nightwing-esque era. Because he had the basic design too on his chest with the red and the black. So I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be a grittier, Dick Grayson kind of deal too. It wasn't.
Honestly, I was a fan of Chris O'Donnell as Robin, so I was kind of hoping that they would go that way, like you said, that he would have been a good Nightwing, I think.
Yeah, he wasn't bad in the role, I got to say this too. The action in this film is just terrible. I mean, there's nothing good about it. Nothing. In some ways, I think the Batman 66 or whatever year in the 60s it came out in, the action was better in that with the boom, pow, throp. This was just bad. Maybe it was, I don't know, like the audio or something was just off to me. Did you guys kind of get that too? Like during the action scenes, it was just bad.
You didn't like the hockey fight?
The fact that they had skis in their shoes already, just ready for it.
The whole thing at the beginning, like what was his plan? He was going to get in the rocket ship and go up and then jump out in a parachute, but he was just hoping that Batman and Robin would jump in there so he could freeze their hands against the rocket. Or am I looking too much into this?
Deploy his ice wings.
I think you have more planning than the writers did for sure in that. Like I don't think they planned it that far. Like I don't know. It's kind of, but it is. It worked, I guess.
What did you guys think about the Alfred storyline? I mean, I thought that there was potential there once again, but for what? I mean, what's the purpose of even trying to put any sort of thought into storytelling here?
I think they're trying to soften Bruce up a little bit, not make him so like grizzled, but it didn't really work.
Does anybody like anything about the film other than Rick liking Arnold as Mr. Freeze? I mean,
yeah.
Any of you guys like anything about this film?
Aesthetically, it's wonderful. Like, to me, aesthetically, it's wonderful, right? Like Rick said in the beginning, with like the sets, everything, like set wise, and the way like the coloring and the way everything was done, like vibrant colors and the way it all sets off, that looks great. I think that is, like, to me, like the big part of that. But that's like the only redeeming factor to me, is just aesthetically pleasing. Yes, but other than that, like, just there's nothing else.
It was really, really hard to get through, to be honest. I had a hard time watching this movie.
Me too. It was tough, man. I had to break it into like fours.
Yeah, I watched
even that was tough.
I watched like half of it last night and the other half this morning. And even this morning, I was like, dude, when is this going to be over?
2 hours. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a lot for a film like this. It was rough, guys. I mean, I know that there's been a lot of things on the internet said about this film that, what can we say that's not already been said? But it was bad. It was really, really, really bad. Rick, do you have a special place for this film in your heart?
Yeah, I hold all those Batman's little special place in my heart from when I was a kid, because I was excited to see it. I was a teenager back then, go to see it. So having Bane in there, I was like, oh man, they're gonna put Bane in this? And then they had Jeep Svensson playing Bane, who was like a power lifter turned pro wrestler turned actor.
Yeah. So I have his name. I don't know if it was he was called Jeep in the pro wrestling world. You probably know more about that guy than I do.
Yeah, that's all I remember him by. If he had a different name, I don't remember.
Robert Swinson. He played Bane. He died like less than a year after the movie came out.
Probably all the roids, because he was huge.
He was jacked. I mean, there was no special effects or makeup there with him. That was his real like arms and body and everything else. Yeah,
he was in WCW, and he made all the wrestlers look tiny in there. So
wow,
that's saying something. That guy was massive. Yeah. I like how they painted like all the veins on him and everything else, and it just progressively got worse and worse towards like the end of the movie. Like he grabs Batman one time, and it looks like a Ninja Turtle hand grabbing it because it's all green and veiny and stuff. And I was like, holy crap. Seeing Bane for the first time in live action was cool.
And the thing is, like, too, when I bring this up, like, what did you guys think of Poison Ivy? You know, like, in my mind, it's like, she can only do so much. Uma Thurman, yes, in the 90s, she was a beautiful actress, and she was in a lot of iconic roles. But in my mind, there's only so much an actress or an actor can do in a film like this, in a world like this. I wasn't very impressed from what I saw, but like, it's that over the top. That's what they were going for. And I just don't think that works in modern day cinema, even in late 90s cinema.
They didn't try to sexualize her too much. And that was like, I know that's kind of her allure and everything, but they like really pushed it hard.
They leaned heavily into it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I could have done without Poison Ivy in that movie. Bane I liked. I think that's the Bane from the comic books, really, from like back in the day. Tom Hardy's Bane is totally not even close to what Bane was in the comic books. So this is way more comic accurate, which I kind of like Bane in this. He's kind of stupid, Yeah.
It's funny to me, too, that Arnold had the cigar when he was Mr. Freeze. Like, the writers were probably like, hey, Mr. Freeze doesn't smoke a cigar. And Arnold was probably like, I'm making $1 million a day. I smoke cigars.
He does now.
Watching this really really makes me want to see a redemption for the character or the villain of Mr. Freeze in Batman 2, in the Batman 2 with Robert Pattinson. There's been some rumblings that could potentially be, at this stage, it's so early. They haven't even finished writing the script yet. But how cool would it be to see a real serious version of Mr. Freeze on the big screen?
Yeah, that would be great.
Can I address one thing? How about when they go up in the rocket ship and Batman's frozen to the wall and Robin just happens to pull out this like heat laser? Like, I would have been like, where was that a while ago, buddy? Like, we're in Iceland. Where was all this? Batman had one because he thawed him out in the water. Like, you guys didn't think to use this on Mr. Freeze earlier? Like, what the heck?
Right. But going back to what Dodie said earlier, I don't think that anyone thought anything out, further than, oh, let's put this in there. Oh, this would be cool. Nobody really put any real thought into this. Another thing that cracked me up is when Arnold was showing his origins of how he became Mr. Freeze, and he fell into the tank, and the whole time he was just doing the Arnold yell, like,
Yes.
I died laughing when I saw that. That was great.
They probably had to pay extra for that line. It's trademark. You have to use it.
It's $1.5 million. That was $1.5 million day.
Honestly, the best acting from Arnold is when he's in the prison cell and he can't breathe after he runs out of it. Like, to me, I thought like, hey, that's kind of legit. Like, he actually seems like he really can't breathe. This is probably the best acting by Arnold in the whole movie.
How did they get Jesse the Body Ventura in there too?
Yeah, he was the security guard.
Yeah, he was one of them. Yeah,
that was interesting too, as a wrestling fan. So yeah, Gotham police are just a bunch of goons, right? In this film, I mean, they're more useless than stormtroopers. They literally, they flip the switch, and then Mr. Freeze kicks one of them, and they all just come rolling down the stairs. It's oh man, everything about this movie was cringe and bad. My wife walked in several times while I was watching this, and she was like, "What are you watching that for?"
I did like the part where Poison Ivy kind of like is supposed to go back and get his wife, and like almost trips and falls, like walking around the hose, and then kicks it. So back then you got that big dramatic, like, oh crap, she just killed, her. That was like a big moment back then. When the movie came out, it was like huge. It was like, oh wow, he's gonna go nuts. That's a very powerful moment from that movie for me.
Yeah, but really, in reality, Arnold just
reaching. I know I'm reaching.
But really, Arnold just said a little bit more than he normally would. Oh gosh. And another thing too that I want to point out, it's literally the end of the world. Everything's getting frozen. Batgirl, meanwhile, is wearing this cowl that's about 4 sizes too big for her head. And they all had time. Like, literally, there's a line in the film where Batman's like, we have 11 minutes until we can thaw everyone out. But this is right after they took time to change like their complete wardrobe and everything into the silver and black costumes. But we only have 11 minutes. I thought that was hilarious.
They zipped each other up.
What was the point of that cowl though? Because they get up on top of that building and she just rips it off.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess
it's like
keep
the little
face
mask. Yeah, I guess.
If you were going to rate this film on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being absolutely the worst film you've ever seen and 10 being perfect, where would you rate it? We'll start with you, Mr. Doty.
Like a 4, man. Like a strong 4. It's pretty rough. I mean, unless you're watching it specifically just to laugh at it, like it's hard to like.
And even then, it's not really that funny. I mean, in some places, yeah, the Arnold one-liners are funny, but there's not much else.
Mm-mm.
There was a reason I stayed away from this movie for so long. It's a 2 for me. If I want to see the Arnold one-liners, I'll just go to YouTube and pull up a little compilation. I don't need to watch the whole movie. I'm going to pass on. I probably will never watch this movie again.
You and me both. What you got, Rick?
I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to say 5 because of Arnold, I mean, I'm comparing it to like all the other Batman films, and it's like, it's got to rank higher than, what was that, 3 for me. So.
Really? Batman Forever?
Yeah, I didn't really care for that one.
Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to go lower than all you guys. And the reason I'm not going to rank it where Angelo had it is because my 2s, I have movies like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Fantastic Four, Rise of Silver Surfer, which I think are head, shoulders, knees, and toes better than this film. So I have this all the way down at a 1. That's where I have it. That's how bad I think it is. It's among the worst ever made. And that's just my opinion, but that's what I think.
Okay, Danny DeVito as the Penguin or Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze? Who had
Danny DeVito all day.
Absolutely.
Danny DeVito all day. Yeah, Danny DeVito. I don't care what Luke Vincent says. Danny DeVito as the Penguin was great. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, fans. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Real Comic Book Cinema. You can also find us on Facebook. And don't forget to check us out at Patreon, patreon.com/comicbookcinema. check us out in the Spotify and the iTunes realm. All the podcasts, we're out there now. And until next time, have a great day.